All right, all right. We're back for another recording of the Bad Ideas podcast with Jason Kraus, the founder and CEO of Prepare for VC. How's it going, Jason?
It's going great. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Super glad you're here. You mind giving us a minute or two on, what you do and what Prepare for VC is all about?
Absolutely. So my background's on both the entrepreneurship and the venture capital side. So I've been a founder of several financial technology ventures across the crowdfunding and blockchain ecosystems, and then also been an investor through started as a analyst at a venture fund that was part of a family office group.
Sorry for laughing. Yeah. My dog is licking my foot right now, and I don't want anyone to think that I don't take what you're doing seriously, but this is like a totally unexpected guest. But keep going. Keep going. Just want the audience to know it's not you.
And a cat.
Yeah. And they don't respect. You don't see we're clearly filming right now, bud. This is not for you. Not for you. Okay. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Are we gonna get one of his ideas today?
Yeah, he actually wrote this one with his paw. That's how bad it is. So I can't wait to share it with you. Yeah, so keep going. So family offices, VCs definitely. We're talking about.
Sure. Yeah, my background coming from the venture and the entrepreneurship side, still actively an investor in 20 ventures through a fund I'm involved with called EQX Fund and part of the Boston Harbor Angels group as well. So yeah, what we do at Prepare for VC is we help startups figure out what's missing to make them a more investable business. We help them with all the preparation of materials and also their go-to-market and growth strategies. And then we get them in front of the right people, whether that's investors or more, they're just spreading the word about their business and getting them in front of the startup community who tend to be really early adopters on especially new B2B technologies and, kind of getting their company out there and breaking through some of those roadblocks along the way to be that more investable, scalable company.
So it'd be pretty safe to say that you're a guy who sees a lot of ideas on a regular basis.
Definitely. And yeah, I think that's the most exciting part for me is, seeing ideas people have or early startups before anybody else really knows that the company exists and helping them figure out how to turn it from a good or bad idea into a better company.
All right. So this is going to be awesome. You're kind of like the real deal of what we're just riffing on here. So this will be fun to dive into, and maybe we'll get some stories out of you if anything comes to mind.
Sounds great.
All right. So order of operations, we are going to expose this bad idea that my dog wrote. No, we found it online. And then we'll spend the first 5-6 minutes talking about every possible reason why it would never work, why it's an awful business. And then we're going to hold ourselves accountable to flip the script. But I do feel like we're cheating a little bit because this is actually what you do professionally. So I hope everyone gets to stay tuned till the end when we turn the thinking hats on to see what it's really like, especially those considering working with you. So you ready?
Perfect. I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Our bad idea is the corporate lullaby consultant. Help executives sleep better by offering personalized lullabies and bedtime stories to ease their work-related stress. What's your reaction?
Wow. Is this within a meeting or at home afterwards?
I have no idea. There's no context given.
All the above?
That's just the idea. My thought, there's a lot of this like corporate de-stress spaces. They popped up largely before the pandemic. I think now that everyone's remote, it's less of a thing. But like the whole spinoff of Google and Facebook campuses where they create a place that has everything, so you stay there all the time. Like, oh, we'll do your laundry, and you'll stay here while we do your laundry. Like, we'll take care of your kids, and you'll stay here while we take care of your kids.
I don't know if they're still as popular, but there were the like sleep pod spaces in a lot of those corporate or whatever, tech friendly corporate offices too. So maybe, you can build in a lullaby or that's kind of spinning the positive side already, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I get, yeah, this company wants to make you like, work and sleep at work, never leave the office, never go home. And um, I don't know how well that's
I
going
mean,
to fly.
you could even read it as someone who comes home and serenades you to sleep. It almost like some kind of therapy to detach your mind from the stress of work, so you stay with the company a little longer. Um,
Oh, so not
yeah, I don't
just,
think it's just in the office.
not just somebody doing it virtually, but like actually somebody coming home with you and reading or singing a
I mean, it's
lullaby
a
to
bad
you.
idea, so we can assume. Lullaby on its own, I think, is what disqualifies it, because like no one is going to raise their hand and say, "I would like to be lullabied by another human," let alone pay for that. Um, let alone admit that you need something like that. I mean, your employer probably would red flag if they thought you would sign up for something like this, right?
I mean, or if you're the one that's signing up to sing other people to
Yeah.
sleep and watch them, yeah, watch them sleep.
Yeah, we're getting a little creepy. Um, but I do think there's something to this. You probably see this with a lot of your companies, particularly the startups that are in super high pressure situations where you might leave an office if you're working in person with the company, but your brain doesn't shut off. Like it's still top of mind. When you think about retention in the core team with your companies, especially like pre-investment, is that something you look at a high level, or is it something you follow up on and kind of an indicator as to how the business is doing if folks are staying there?
Yeah, I think, one of the challenges, like especially in the startup space, is there is a high level of like burnout and turnover, and part of that stems from if you're a few co-founders building something, there's nobody really telling you that, it's time to like shut off, or, time to like decompress after work or the workday's over. There's always something you
Yeah.
can keep building and keep working on. And that can be helpful in the short term, but damaging in the
Mm-hmm.
long term. So yeah, I think maybe, and it's a completely different relationship when, if you're running the company and it's your own venture, or if it's, more of that employee
Mm-hmm.
role of like, I'm going to clock out at 5 or 6 o'clock and go home and do something
Mm-hmm.
else now. So I think when you're in the startup mode, you're always like, even if you're doing something else, if you're watching Netflix at night, you're also thinking about
Work
like
in some
the
capacity.
next meeting you have going on the
Yeah,
next
yeah. I
day.
imagine that's where the idea came from. Again, it's a really bad one because lullabies is not the way. Maybe it's like therapy or something. Um, that's got to be where the idea came from. Like, let's help people disconnect a little bit so they can come back fresh. And it's a big trade. We've had a couple of people on the last 4 or 5 episodes that talk a lot about like your state of mind and um, you know how to optimize your mind for performance. I think that's super crucial with early stage guys, because you're tackling fresh challenges every day, and that gets really exhausting and certainly hard to disconnect from. I mean, do you have go for it?
Yeah, I think. Oh, I was just gonna say one of kind of along those lines too is being excited about. There's a lot of excitement about a lot of different potential things you can do, whether it's features you can add or different target markets you can go after, and uh, being able to stay focused and kind of bring back the attention to maybe we can do all these things down the road, but who's our early adopters that we need to make sure are really happy and excited about our
Yeah.
product or service, and who can we go after later. And if you're trying to do 100 things at once, you're going to be burned out much quicker, and you're also not going to be as successful in all those
That's when you wind
categories.
up really needing a lullaby, because you spend all day like chasing shiny objects and then go home and start thinking about the task list you neglected, and it's just stress after stress after
Right.
stress. And, um, you know, I forget the name of the book. I was reading a book the other day. I got to pull up the name. I'll try to put it in the footnotes for this one. But they were talking about the two real estate investors. They built significant businesses, like 9-figure plus each. And they went to some conference, and again, I forget the guy. I wish I knew the names. But they met this guy who was leading a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that he founded himself, and they were like, "How did you do it?" Like, the 9 figures is a lot of money, but what you're doing is totally another level. Like, how did you do it? And the guy said, "I start every day by organizing everything I have to do in order of priority, and I do the top 3." And it was like, I've never heard such an honest, like, you can't do everything. At some point, you actually can't do everything. So you have to own that and embrace it. And I don't think that's something most people can do. I think leaving things open-ended, especially when things are piled beyond what you can achieve, is always going to create stress. So it kind of makes sense that someone who did have that level of focus and could prioritize ruthlessly would be so successful. I mean, you ever seen anything like that?
I think that's a great methodology. Yeah. I think it needs to be personalized too. Some people work a lot better doing like one thing and then moving on to the next one. Other people, like personally, I like to spend a certain amount of time on something and then rotate to something else.
Time box?
Kind of go back.
Yeah.
Keep maybe if I had 3 priorities for the day, kind of get through like 70% of each and then make sure they're finished by the end of the day. But yeah, I think everybody has a slightly different method, but you can learn from like what's worked for other people. And maybe, your reward for completing your first 3 tasks is you get a lullaby after that. And
all right. Well, we're bringing it back to our bad idea. So, I mean, have we established that the demand base for lullabies is the startup space? I mean, do we think this has corporate applications?
Yeah, maybe it's, I mean, even, maybe that's too broad too. Is it tech companies? Is it consumer products? Is it, people that have, maybe they've been building a hardware device all day, or, kind of more on the manufacturing side. And now, they've had a long day of manual labor and they need to decompress a little bit with a lullaby.
I feel like tech is the only place something this wild would be kind of socially acceptable because it's too weird for pretty much everything else. But just, I want to pivot into the good idea side of this. But, checking off why it's bad, the name is awful. The customers are not going to be able to admit that they want this thing because it's admitting a flaw, which is like, you never want to make your customer do something they don't want as a criterion of buying your product. That's just like killing demand before it can be generated.
Right. You don't want them to say,
we haven't even,
I have to do this again. And, my boss is making me listen to a lullaby or invite somebody in to give me a lullaby.
Yeah. My company is sending people home to sing me to sleep. It's just really weird. I mean,
sure. Especially when you put it like that.
This is not going to work. I think like there's major staffing issues. Who's going to want to go home and sing to somebody? And are you going to send someone home to every person that's on the payroll? How are you going to staff that? How are you going to make it worth their time? How are you going to price to make it work yours? It's just like that. It's a fundamentally flawed business from almost every angle, particularly when it's home care, and it's weird. So we're putting a bullet in that. Do you agree? Like anything else awful about this idea you think we missed in the list?
Yeah, I think, and then also the challenge of it's a location-based challenge too. You have to kind of go city by city or location by location and be able to scale up in each market before you move on to the next one.
Yeah, major operational challenges, but you need people to admit that they want your product before you can go city to city, and I think this is dead before that even happens.
I think an interesting take might be on the like who's the lullabier or the person singing.
Yeah.
So maybe
Unpack
there's a
that. What
yeah,
What are you thinking? Unpack that. What are you thinking?
yeah, I'm thinking you know, we've established it's a little creepy for somebody else in your office to go home and sing to you, but maybe
Yeah.
there's an up and coming singer or somebody that wants to kind of test out their
Mm-hmm.
talent without,
Mm-hmm.
going to going to an open mic night at a bar and singing in front of like dozens of people. They can just do it to thinking now if that's um more nerve wracking doing it to one person in their home, but um, there might
So
be an angle there.
my mind went to the exact same place, like exact same thought train. I was thinking amateur artists, like this becomes a vehicle for them to kind of test, and they do it virtually. So it's like a Zoom with like maybe 10 or 15 people. So you get access to like rolling private concerts from superstar artists that are not known yet. Um, there's not necessarily a lullaby, but it's the sort of thing like if you make it small enough so the artist is actually interacting with you, um, I think it serves the intended function of distracting you almost completely from all the work stuff. Because you have this
Right.
person performing for you and engaging with you, with the intent to kind of test and evaluate their skills, and take your mind off all the stuff that's rattling around in the brain. What do you think?
Yeah, I think kind of positioned like that is you still get that benefit of being able to take a break. It's something you can find enjoyable, like just um, it can be you're not pigeonholed into it has to be a lullaby. It can
Yeah.
be maybe you choose your favorite genre, get matched up with somebody an up and coming artist that
Mm-hmm.
is excited to kind of give you personalized or small group concert and test the waters on their side.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking to you a little bit in between songs, so it feels like you're in the room. That's got to be an awesome place to kind of disappear to.
Right.
And it's a nice way to monetize talent. Like before they're drawing tickets, maybe businesses are buying into this. So there's baked in demand. It's just you have to not be awful. Um, you know that. Have you ever been to Nashville?
I haven't, no. I've heard great things about it though.
Well, I mean, to our credit, Boston has a pretty amazing music scene. So, home base is not bad to start. But I'd say um, just the quality control of musicians in Nashville is another level. Um,
Right.
like even people playing at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday are spectacular. And those folks, I don't even know if they get paid. I think they'll play for free just because you get noticed there. So that's the sort of thing where, you know, if they're part of a program where they can play a couple nights a week for a couple $100 and they can do it from their house and just stream it on Zoom or something, um, you have a huge supply base of talent, particularly in this country. And you can connect people via Zoom anywhere. And that's a pretty easy thing to make available for people to participate in. It does feel kind of exclusive. Like you're one of 5 or 10 that actually gets to hear this show and you get to discover people and meet them and talk to them.
Right.
That's something unique. Again, we're attacking your mental state to improve work performance with entertainment, but it's a little better than a corporate lullaby singer. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, do you think and this would be more of like a psychological discussion to go into, but there's probably certain types of music that would enhance your thinking or, calm you down or whatever you need at that moment. Like
Yeah.
if it's pre-work or post-work,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's different styles of music that are recommended for you.
Deep work frequencies or sleep work in this case, right?
Right.
Have you ever I mean, you're in Boston. Do you ever look at like biotech, or is most of the stuff that you guys focus on purely B2B?
We do, yeah, we do biotech more on the like the consulting side. And so yeah, we have a consulting and then a cohort based like educational programs that we run as well. And yeah, so mostly on the consulting side for biotech. We also, there's a big life science like community, so different like pitch events and things like that we'll do with one of our organizations, Boston New Technology, that has a group called Boston Life Science Showcase. But yeah, there's a huge community for that locally.
Have you seen anything in the last couple of years related to like mental performance or work performance, like coming out of the biotech space? It's almost like psych tech.
There's been, yeah, I'd say it's kind of med tech. There's some like, there is different sleep monitoring technologies. I mean, corporate wise,
No lullabies, right?
like Whoop's one of the big ones out of, I think they're also out of Boston too. But yeah, that's more of like a monitoring and recommendation tool. And then there's startups that are working on kind of, also analyzing different sleep patterns and, helping you figure out how to, some have either music built in or kind of other ways to help you go to sleep faster.
Yeah.
Or maybe not necessarily faster, but like have a better, deeper sleep.
I'm having too much fun riffing on this. There's many things that I shouldn't say that I'm not going to say because of that. But when you look at these companies, I mean, this is more kind of your perspective on the work side, but when you're seeing a company for the first time and hearing them walk through their deck, looking at a company, and you just know, like in your heart, that this is the one. Like I'm gonna do this, and obviously you can't show that because they're gonna use it to negotiate. But like, what criteria, what boxes do you check in your mind when you're seeing them? Let's run through that.
Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, first one is definitely the founders and the team. Are they experts in that space? We go back to this Lullaby one, and if it's Taylor Swift pitching that she's gonna perform and create this workplace performance company,
Baked in market,
has that baked in market, and also the credibility and the talent to do it better than anybody else that had the same idea. That that'll make it successful. If it's like we've had one of the groups, investment groups I'm involved in, the Boston Harbor Angels group. I'd say the quickest fundraise I've ever seen was the founder, or he's the founder of a cloud storage company, Wasabi, and he had a previous exit with another data storage company, Carbonite, that the group had previously invested in. And, we came back to the group and then asked everybody who was in at the end of the pitch, and people raise their hand when normally it's like you kind of write down, okay, I'm interested in doing some due diligence, seeing what happens over the next couple of weeks, and maybe investing in the company. But yeah, it was kind of right away.
They knew.
Like, people knew him and his background, and he'd done this before, and had done it in this space, and had a lot of his team that he had worked with previously, also came along with him. So, it was kind of like pretty much backing the team as the experts in the space. Yeah, so that's definitely the leading indicator, I'd say. But also, you kind of have to also believe in the vision of the company, and be able to see why, even if you're not the user or core user, like why other people would want to use and adopt whatever the product or service.
Well, the big takeaway that I was fishing for there, and this is kind of a major theme with bad ideas, you explained perfectly, is that it really is about the person behind the idea more than the idea. And I think we talked about this when we met originally. I think there's a perception out there, largely fueled by certain popular investing television shows, that the idea is what drives the market, but it's the person behind it that drives the market. Like they build the business, they build the demand, they tell the story, they execute, and execution is what gets you across the line. It's not the idea, you know?
Yeah. If you had this podcast, I don't know, say 20 years ago, and like the idea was we're going to have a car that drives around and you're going to jump in a car with a stranger and get a ride somewhere, like everybody would think it was a bad idea.
I know. But today,
it's all about the execution.
And I think like hearing that from an investor, someone in dozens of companies who looks at hundreds of companies a year, I think it adds a lot of weight to that fact. And that's again part of my secret hope, that there's someone who happens to be watching this who's really excited about doing something, who thinks, well, wait a minute, if it's really not about the idea and I want to do this and I'm committed to doing this, maybe there's something that I can really make happen. The other piece, so that's part one. One, if you put the energy and the elbow grease in, you can find ways to make things happen. I think two, that we're kind of demonstrating by turning this from a strange person coming into your home and singing you to sleep into you engaging with unknown artists virtually in small, intimate groups. We're showing that you can start with one idea, turn it into another, and make the same thing successful. Like because you pivoted doesn't mean you failed. It means you're honest with yourself about how your original strategy was playing out. And I think that's super valuable too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's important, and it takes that strong entrepreneur to kind of recognize when things aren't working and figure out, is it everything that's not working? Is there one thing people really like, or one group that, maybe we've been getting requests from people that aren't our core audience, that maybe we change what we're doing and make it work better for them. So yeah, it's kind of listening to what the customers in the market are telling you.
Yeah. We've had a couple like small projects, minor friends and family funding that we kicked off. One of them we're wrapping up now, like literally as we speak. We're dissolving the entity and it's hurting my heart to do. But it was one of those things where everyone loved the idea, particularly the investors were super excited about the scalability of it. But it was way too complex for the market. It was a concept that like had so many layers to it that you couldn't get it quickly. So it was preventative. It was almost like corporate lullaby consultants, something that's so complicated and so bizarre that it's difficult to consume. That's kind of what we came up with. The value was amazing. It was something everybody needed, but the execution and the explanation of the execution was so complex that it kind of shot itself in the foot before it ever got off the ground. And bringing that up as kind of a personal example of, there's 5 or 6 different times we definitely should have pivoted, because we did have indications of demand, but we were so committed to bringing this thing to life. We spent 6 different years literally building the thing in different iterations, and all of them were blocked by the same thing. At the end of the day, it was just the understanding of the product. Any of your companies have like really successful pivot stories that come to mind?
Yeah. Even internally, we've gone through some pivots with Prepare for VC. We actually just kind of rebranded some of our programming. So we have a 12-week cohort-based program we had referred to as the Prepare for VC Accelerator. And we kind of sit between like a traditional incubator and accelerator space, where like you have some early traction, kind of like early product prototype, but not a lot of traction behind it yet, and you're looking to scale up. So yeah, we've kind of did a lot of like interviews with other previous cohort members and the mentors that have been involved, and rebranded or renamed it to the
Hmm.
Breakthrough Program, because that was the theme, is what are the roadblocks that kind of prevent you from going from this phase you're in right now to the next phase you want to achieve in your company. And kind of centralize, like, I think the biggest impact for us is it's helping us kind of differentiate ourselves a little bit more from like every other program that's called an accelerator out there, and letting people know like what we're going to focus on specifically, and tie the curriculum and the content and the experience to that. And then with a lot of the startups we work with, we've had some there's been some are small changes that have a big impact. Like there's one in the went from it's a planning company designed for executive assistants. It's called AO Planner, and basically they started with a physical, like, actual paper planner that is adjustable and was created like for the executive assistant to CEOs, that specific market. And then kind of expanded versus pivoting into like a digital and physical version that connect with each other with smart pen technology. So, kind of I'd say the reason for the pivot for them was the executive assistants love like writing it down physically, but the people they're reporting to, want to see the digital version. So it was kind of like the sweet spot for them was how do we kind of adapt and fit both sides of the equation there.
It's an awesome marriage. I mean, how many in your program? How many people do you take into each cohort? How big are they?
Usually 6 to 10 companies at a time.
And you got a couple hundred applying to each one usually?
Yeah, about that.
There we go. I mean, you have a really even approach. You've clearly seen a ton of this stuff. You're extremely gentle with bad ideas. I mean, this is a bad idea. So I think that's going to make you very approachable.
I mean, I always like to think how, kind of that mindset of how it can be a good or better idea, even if it starts off as a bad idea. Because there are a lot of great pivots. Most major companies have had huge change along the way, and like in the startup market, or I'm pretty sure everybody's message or use Slack in some capacity, and that started out as a gaming company. So anything can kind of turn into a completely different business along the way.
As long as you're open to change, that's the key.
Right.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much. If folks want to connect with you directly, I mean, is there any way they can access you or follow you or get directly in touch?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to connect on LinkedIn, or I have a personal site as well, jasonkraus.me. And happy to connect and see how I can help your venture.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking a look at our idea. Really, really enjoyed it. We'll have to do this again.
Sounds good. Yeah, this was fun.
Awesome. Thank you.